welcome to the porch. Pull up a chair, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Now here's your host, Michelle Barras and Brian Swanson.
I still want to play air guitar to that, but I'm just no good at it.
And I keep wanting to sing, "Color me your color, baby." And it's not even the right song, but that.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So anyhow, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the show, Denim and Pearls. And I'm Brian.
My name is Michelle Barras.
And I just totally lost you in my headset for some reason.
Well, my name is Michelle Barras, and we are Denim and Pearls. We are business casual conversation with pearls of wisdom from the porch. Can you hear me? Well, Brian has completely lost me, so So here's the thing. Today our topic is sign, everywhere, sign. What happened?
I don't know what happened.
Am
I
I
can
back?
hear you over here, but I can't hear you in here.
Oh, well.
Well, you just keep talking for a minute there. Let me get my stuff straightened out here.
Blocking out my scenery, messing my mind. Don't do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign? Well, anyways, we thought about signs because there are signs in our lives. There's signs everywhere. There's signs in our heads. There's signs from the universe, but there's signs on cars. And that's really what started it for me. And I'm sure that's not what we're really going to talk about, but I have a pet peeve and I want to share it. I'm going to air my pet peeve. My pet peeve is when people have their business world, their business name on the sides of their car. Oh, you're at the popcorn store in Westcliff, Janelle. Whew. You have to try the Brewski popcorn. It is the bomb diggity. Anyways, when people have their business name on the side of their car and they're weaving in and out of traffic and flipping people off and cutting people off and not letting people merge in, just when you drive like a real jerk and you have your name on your car, in my mind is sign everywhere, sign. And my first impression is I will never hire that person because I'm a big believer in, communication. And communication is done through body language. Well, a lot of it's done by body language. Well, my thought process is your car is part of your body language. The way you drive, the way you walk, the way you enter a room, all of this is part of your body language. In my mind, also, the way you respond to people on social media. So when I see someone driving erratically, I think I will never work with that person, ever. I will never hire them because if they can drive like that, how is their work ethic? And then Brian and our producer started talking to me and they're like, yeah, you may have that, but you should never judge a book by its cover. And I said, well, I agree with that, but that's a really big cover. When they're cutting in and out of traffic and being rude to people, that shows me that they are very self-centered and therefore that's how they run their business. And so we had this huge discussion, well, virtually with Brian, but with the producer in the garage about how I was judging people by their driving if they had their name on. Now, granted, I also have that whole perception of they may be in a rush. They may have someone they love going to the hospital, that kind of thing. But my issue is if you drive erratically, if you're rude in your car in a very large vehicle that can hurt people, what do you do on a personal level? So, Brian, do you want to talk about that? Because I know you were definitely convincing me.
Well, now that I can hear you, this is awesome. Are we talking about somebody who drives a dump truck, who's working for a major corporation, who can't drive for anybody?
That works too.
Do a good job. Does that reflect that on the company? Or are we talking about the little independent that she went to Vistaprint and grabbed a sign and stuck it on the side of her car, and that's her business?
Yes. I'm talking about entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners, small business owners that drive around with their name on their car. If it's a big corporation, no, if they're driving erratically, I'm one of those people who will call the number on the back of the car. It says, how's my driving? I will call and say, and this is the license plate. And this is who, they're wearing a hat, glasses, they've got, and I'll describe them and I'll send it in and say, listen, they're representing your company poorly. But when it's in someone's, personal car with their business name on it, my thing is you are your brand at all times.
Well, are you judging the book by the cover? Is the cover the driving? I mean, honestly, just because they, there's plenty of reasons, like you said, that they could be rushing their kid to the hospital. I mean,
yeah,
it's not always the case by any means, but they could be doing something along those lines. So there are exceptions to the rule.
There are exceptions, but there's some instances you can tell they're not in a rush to get somewhere important. They're just being jerks. And that's really the one that bothers me. Usually I just kind of pull back and move and say, have at it. You want to speed, go for it. But then there's other times where I'm like, get off my bumper.
You're not that calm about it.
No. But get off my bumper.
In the back seat.
Get off my bumper. If you're going to be riding me that hard, you better buy me a drink. I mean, so my thing is, I hate it when people do that. And when they pass me with their name on their car, I do you realize what you just did?
Probably not. Most people don't. They don't think about it. They're out for their thoughts and they're going straight ahead. They might be listening to Denim and Pearls on their radio and they just totally forgot what they were doing.
If you are listening to Denim and Pearls on the radio currently and you're driving like a fool, please don't do that. And Nicholas just wrote, how did you judge Brian when you first met him? Well, no, I never met him. I never allowed myself to meet him.
Right. Well, you did. You judged me from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, I saw him from afar and said, I had a parameter in my head of people that I avoided like the plague, and he looks like it. He is the description of a person I would avoid like the plague. But, if you know my backstory, you understand that I have a really bad backstory. And Brian is one of those people who look like one of my bad backstories. And so I avoided him like the plague because I had generalized in my fear. I generalized my fear into an individual, into a stereotype. And Brian, unfortunately, fit that stereotype. And this is why, not judging your book by the cover thing is so important. Maniacs on the street, endangering lives, one thing. Me with a perception where I put a book cover onto Brian that didn't belong to him. What was brilliant about that is I was able to realize I was doing that to him.
Right. Well, I think there's plenty of other examples like that. I mean, we were talking last week when we were talking about food and judging somebody because they didn't taste their food before they put salt and pepper on it, or they put steak sauce on their steak. I mean, that's just one way to judge. However, you still have to understand what's going on underneath. I think a big one is we've always been told when we do business, and especially in my business, when you go from a house to, to another house, to do business with somebody, you go in, you have a great conversation, nothing doesn't quite go through and you can't figure out why, or you make a deal and 2 days later you find out that the deal falls through and it's a question of why. Well, some people will take a judgment. He left the house, he went to the car and he cheered too much because he got the sale. He or she went to the car and lit up a cigarette in front of the house. All of a sudden, now you're not doing business because you lit up a cigarette, or you're not doing business because you celebrated in your car. So when I have folks that work with me, part of my team and stuff, I always explain to them, don't light up a cigarette, don't cheer, don't do any of that stuff. Pull around the corner and then do it.
Yeah, keep your composure.
You're not being judged at that moment. Ketchup on steak. What's that got to do with it?
What has to do with this? Sign everywhere, sign. Right? If I see someone put ketchup on steak, my sign from that is they don't know good steak. I grew up in Nebraska. I mean, when my father moved to Nebraska when I was 15, turning 16, and we learned real steak. When I lived in the Philippines, I put ketchup on my steak. But that was because I always had it very, very well done or burnt. I didn't realize what a steak tasted like. So we put ketchup on it because that's what we did. Came to Nebraska and realized that steak tastes really dang good and didn't need ketchup. So it was a perception. Yeah, perception.
I think it all goes, I mean, we're talking about food because we went back to what we were talking about last week. But there's all kinds of judgments that we make. We judge it by the cover, as you say, or judge it by the signs. Sometimes it's not right. I mean, it's just like you judging me. I will say it was probably not right. but that's more your thing. But I didn't even know it, and there's no way I could fix that
No, you couldn't.
problem. And that's where I have a problem sometimes with judgment, because we have preconceived notions about certain people or their businesses a certain way. Or let's say the pizza guy comes to the house and he runs over I don't know, he hits my car in the driveway before he delivers my pizza or on his way out. Do you judge the entire company because of that, or because of that one guy who's the driver?
One guy. Driver can't control that. I mean, the company can't control the driver.
Right, but some people will make that judgment. Oh, they've got terrible service and he hit my car, so I'll never buy pizza from them again.
Then that's their loss, and we can get our pizza faster.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can talk about as far as what's judging. I mean, where did that really come from? I mean, it came from the library. I remember it as a kid, right? Don't judge a book by the cover. You know, why is that?
Well, because
what's its intent?
That intent is because you never know what people are going through. And that's one of the things, well, I talk a lot about in my coaching is, just because someone's rude to you doesn't mean they don't like you. Or just because you didn't get a job doesn't mean you aren't qualified. Judging that book by the cover is you see it from the outside and you put all your insecurities behind it. Stop doing that. Let it open, find out what it is. If I hadn't done that with you, Brian, we would not be friends. We would not be here on Denim and Pearls. It's just, I had to take the courage to open the book. I was afraid of the book. And I had to open the book to realize that I was wrong about the cover. And what that did, what you don't realize you did, is that you made it so that I was more open to all the other people I have put into that same book cover. And
right.
Cars, I mean, everything you did was everything I was afraid of. So what it did is it helped me open my mind, that I realized, okay, I didn't even realize I had put that parameter on so many people. And even on objects like cars. And when I realized that I was wrong with you, my whole book opened up and I went, okay, I'm good.
Right. And so, I think sometimes it's a matter of trying things, because we judge everything based on our prior experience. That's how we make decisions. It's just a fact of life and a fact of nature and how our brain works. We judge things based on our prior experience. And if we haven't ever experienced something, then it's foreign. Then it's not easily explained. And I'll take it into my financial world. You know, I educate on life insurance. I educate about what goes on in contracts and things like this. Not all agents do that. They'll just sell you a product. They say, sign here or autograph here or endorse here, whatever it is. And you take them on their good faith. Well, sometimes you have to get down into the actual contract, just like your mortgage. I mean, I don't do mortgages, but if you look at a mortgage, there's 400 pages of mortgage.
Yeah.
You only need to know 3 pages, the information on 3 different pages. So if I try to teach somebody different, there's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of pushback on the fact that it's a new product to them. They don't understand. So I have a lot of explaining to do, that this product ABC is better than the product that you have. And don't take my word for it. Read it inside the book, if you will. Go past the cover and read what's in that contract. And it can make a huge difference to our financial situations in life, especially when it comes to families and protecting, because there's contracts out there that won't protect you, even though it says it does. It has exclusions to it. And I won't go into all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's too much.
It's a bunch of exclusions to different things. So you've got to know what you have. You have to be educated on what you have.
Yeah. And that whole book by the cover thing. I mean, I see Nicholas wrote in, I don't like the artwork in your office, so I don't want to work with you. Fine. You don't have to. And see, that's the whole thing about signs. You can either succumb to that. You can listen to it and lose out on something good. If I kept my book cover onto Brian and never allowed myself to go into the book of realizing who he was, this wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this friendship. So think of what I would have lost if I didn't open the book. It was a choice. For 15 years, we've known each other, and I've ignored him.
Right. And I think business has a lot. even in business, it has something to do with it, because we all make decisions on going forward based on what the knowledge that we have. And we judge that decision by what we see and what we already know. But I think we can cover some of that right after we get done doing our little commercial. What do you think?
Okay, as long as I can remember what I'm trying to talk about next. Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm going to push the button.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on the porch. We share the nuances and lessons we've garnered from throughout our combined 40 years of life experiences. Talk from the porch is always serious, but full of laughter, and we're glad you're here with us. Like, share with a friend, and please subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And remember, join the conversation every Friday at noon Mountain Time. We'll see you on the porch.
Well, that's neat. You got such a pleasant voice. I love it. So why don't you finish our commercial up with all that other fun, good stuff?
Thank you for watching Denim and Pearls. My name is Michelle Moras, and this is my co-host, Brian Swanson. We are business casual with pearls of wisdom from the porch. If you are interested in being a sponsor to the Denim and Pearls page, please go to Denim and Pearls podcast at gmail.com, and it's scrolling on the bottom here. The other thing we could please do, if you're on this live or if you're watching the replay, please share this with a friend, because we do need our numbers to grow in order to sustain ourselves. And then the other thing is, if you could please also like and follow our Facebook page and our YouTube, that would be very much appreciated. Another thing, if you are part of Clubhouse, please find us. We are also live there every Friday at noon, and at 1 o'clock, we open the room and start talking. Back to you, Brian.
We're going to have a conversation on the porch in the Clubhouse in a room. Exciting. And everybody can ask us questions then. Right now, it's actually live on there right now, but we're not going to address it at the moment. We'll talk about it afterwards, after the show's over.
But I do need you to make Nathan the moderator.
I can. Dun dun dun. There. He says he has a thing to go to, so he may come on later on.
Okay.
So anyway, so back to judging businesses, judging the business itself.
Well, I want to go first into that. People react by fight or flight mode when they meet things or see things, and they pull on their past experience. Like you said, they pull on their past experience on whether or not to trust or not. And what happens with that book by the cover, judging the book, is they use a past experience to reflect on whether or not they can trust something or not. So when they have a negative experience in their past, like with me, with you, I had judged you with a negative experience from my past and didn't give you a chance. I've done that with businesses. I told you I do that with cars when they're driving down the street like maniacs. I have preconceived notions, not because I'm a bad person, but because I'm human. There is no one on this planet who can drive down the street or see something that they've had a bad experience with and not react. So don't judge yourself about that, okay? Don't judge your book by the cover, because it's natural to do and pull back. The problem with that is you've got to realize when you're reacting and then logically work yourself through it, because you may be missing out on something very good.
Well, I also think too that it kind of flips over onto the other side too. We have to give a good presentation. I mean, if we sit here and look like, I mean, I don't look like the prettiest person in the world because I don't have a suit and tie on. Does that mean my opinion is different because I don't have a suit and tie on? So people have to make that judgment call too. I mean, it's just, we go back to your car example. You know, if a guy is a BMW salesman or a Jaguar salesman or a Lamborghini salesman, is it good that he drives around a 1974 Pinto that's rusted?
Yes.
There's a perception there too, and that's judging the book. Just because he drives around a Pinto doesn't mean he's a bad sales guy. However, our first concept is, I'm not buying it. Why would I buy a Lamborghini from a guy that sells or drives around a Pinto?
Exactly.
Okay? So we've got to have a balance in it, but sometimes our first judgments are based on our best knowledge. So we look at the guy who sells Pintos and sells Mercedes or what have you when driving a Pinto, and we go, yeah, probably not going to buy from that guy.
Well, the same with coaches and insurance agents and whatever you hire. Google them. The world is an open book. Google them. Find out more about them. If you are looking at a coach, like we said a couple episodes ago, Google them. If they have not done anything, if you can't find them on a Google search, they're not doing what they say they do. So Google them, find out more about them. And then when you do meet with them, say, if you're a coach, who coaches you? Because practice what you preach. If a Mercedes sailor, help me. If someone sells Mercedes dealer and he drives a Pinto or something of that nature, he doesn't believe enough in his product to use his own product. Same
or
with
he's
the
not
coach.
selling enough.
Yeah, or he's not a very good salesman. But the other thing, same with the coach or an insurance salesman. If the thing is they aren't using their own product, like say, so-and-so is an insurance salesman and they use like State Farm or something, but they actually work for Prudential or whatever.
Right.
What's wrong with that? Or think of all the MLMs where people are doing like their shakes and their fitness stuff. I'm a fitness such and such, and I work for, Vasa, whatever, Lifetime, whatever. Oh, really? Where do you work out? Gold's Gym. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with.
Well, that's part of believing in your own product.
You have to believe in your own product, but that's also judging a book by its cover. If you don't believe in your product, then you don't use it. If you believe in your product, you use it.
Right. Yeah, and you're a testimony for that product. When it comes to the different types of things. Another thing that I want to go back on, or not actually go back on, but look at too, I got to thinking sitting here, what about all the marketing and stuff that we do? All of the stuff that we put out and we paint this beautiful picture with our marketing, just like our Denim and Pearls across here. Isn't it just beautiful and it's gorgeous?
Oh,
and
you're not talking about me?
Yes, exactly. It sets the tone for us. We're both beautiful and gorgeous. Okay. However, if it looks like garbage, we make a decision or judgment call on that kind of first come first or first appearance kind of thing. And what I'm thinking of,
we're lovely. She loves to see us. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Gerline.
Hi, Gerline. The other thing is too, is like we were talking about the coffee shop or the guy that makes the coffee, over there in Westcliff. Great guy, great coffee, the whole 9 yards, beautiful looking product. Well, what if he didn't put the time and the money and the energy into his marketing? What if it was just a brown paper bag? Is that going to make a difference in his sales because people are judging because it's simply nothing but a brown paper bag?
Heck yeah.
Which it's not, by the way, but yeah.
No, his stuff is amazing. And honestly, after drinking his coffee, it could be in a Ziploc bag for all I care. I'm going to drink it. But you have to get to it first. Okay. You have to get to it. And that's what that beautiful image is. I'm going back to my whole dating analogy. Everything you do in business is like dating. You don't go out to go find your partner, your love of your life at your worst. You go out looking your best, showered. I mean, everything about you is the best you can be. Okay. Right. Because if you don't, and they see you real,
they see you without makeup in the morning. Is that what you're saying?
Just, it's not going to happen. So the thing is think about what you do in business, that whole, sign everywhere, sign. You are a sign. You are a billboard for who you are, what you do, whatever your product is. And so you must show yourself in your best light. Why? Because once people come in, because we are naturally as humans attracted to beautiful things, attracted to things that bring us to them. Once they're in there and they realize who you are, you can slack back. I mean, just think of all of us married people. Brian and I, Brian, you've been married to Julie for like 28 years. And Michael.
No, 30. Almost 30. It'll be 30 this year.
Really? So 29 years, almost 30. Michael and I have been together, have been married for 28 years. And so we can wake up and look like this and he's still going to love me, Same with you, right? Julie still loves you on a normal day. But see, that's the thing. Once they get past the shop appeal, that last item appeal at the cash register where they put all the bad stuff, all the yummy stuff,
right.
That's what you're doing when you're selling. You are drawing people. Michael, 27 years, it's last year. This year in August, we've been married 28. So anyway, correcting me on the internet. But that's the whole thing is there's a draw. And once you bring them in and they realize how special you are, then you can slack off a little bit. Don't slack all the time, okay? Because, they kind of like you.
So I think what we're coming down to is the fact that we look at stuff, we make a judgment call, but we can't make a full determination.
No.
So you look beyond the cover. In other words, you got to at least read their inside jacket, or maybe read the back of the book where they put the little brief summary and all the nice little quotes and those good
I'm
things.
laughing, Brian, because I have a story. And I can't even remember if it's real. Remember, brain injury. But this guy marries this girl. She is stunning, just absolutely perfection. And he marries her. They have kids, and the kid comes out and doesn't look like either one of them. And he's like accusing her of cheating because this baby does not look like either one of them. And what comes down to is she has had so much plastic surgery, she doesn't even look like her.
Oh, jeez.
But he loves her. But, it's that whole perception that so often, with COVID, there's no nightclubs and stuff, but people fall in love in bars. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a really bad idea because the cover of that book is not real. And you're drinking it drunk. So, you're reading it drunk. So it's the whole perception is wrong. So when you're doing anything important, have a clear mind and remember where you are when you are making these kind of life-changing decisions. Watch the book.
In your clubhouse or club example there, you're also talking about the fact that we're putting on our best show. We're putting on our best behavior or whatever we think is attractive to our soulmate that we're looking at over here, whatever it happens to be. So we're always putting our best foot forward, as they say. And then, it'll probably last. You fall in love, you last for a couple of weeks and, oh, great, we're going to get married. And then the real truth comes out.
Yeah. And Nate says, be the product of the product.
Exactly. So that's probably a real good reason why some people wait a year or 2 years before they get married. But even in those cases, I've seen marriages happen and they still don't work out after they've been together for a couple of years because they were always on that, that dating mode.
Yeah. Well, I've seen people who met each other and within the week got married and they're still married and it's been like 28 years. So it's how real are these people? Now, the other thing I thought about, because the whole judging a book by the cover, our producer loves to tease me about Jason Momoa. And so one of them, if you don't know who Jason Momoa is, he's Aquaman. The ripped Aquaman, not the green suit with the orange belt Aquaman. Anyways, he teases me about him. And so when the Super Bowl last year, they had that commercial where he was taking off his muscles and he's just this really, really scrawny guy and his wife is helping him pick up a glass and all sorts of stuff like that. I think about that as the book cover. Mm-hmm. You look at him and do, whoa. And then when he's pulling off all his muscles, it's like, hey, I've been cheated.
Well, I think we see a lot of that because, almost any celebrity that you see, whether it's an old TV show or an old movie or even a current one, they're playing characters.
Heck yeah.
That's the book cover. And you fall in love with that person as that character. And then you hear in the paper that they did something not so good, it's a perfect example, judging them by their cover, because that person that's on stage or on the film or whatever is not the person that we fell in love
with. Yeah. Well,
right, exactly. Now, there's a lot of them that are.
Remember we were talking about celebrity crushes, and it's like, when did you stop having that crush? Well, when I realized they were pickpocket, or when I saw them dating this really crazy guy. You're like, when you saw the real them. And so that's why it's important when you see a book, you like the cover, you gotta open it. And it could be with people, businesses, anything it is. Make sure you dig a little deeper before you make a decision. And that's really what signs and not judging a book by the cover. That's what this topic is all about, is sometimes there's more to the cover than we believe there is. be sure to open the cover. At least read the first 2 flaps. That'll give you a good idea. That's why book covers are made the way they are. So you can read the back, and then you can open the inside flap and read a little bit more, and then get to know them more. So like with businesses where you're definitely investing a lot with them, know more about them, research them. There's nothing that we can't research nowadays. It's not like back when Brian and I were kids, when we had to go to the library and look through a card index and hope we found what we were looking for if the book was still in the library. Nowadays, we can just Google and find out anything on any. So research, make sure they're really who they say they are, especially when it comes to, with the entrepreneur world, coaches and mentors and people that you invest money in, with, and things like that. You need to know who you are dealing with. I mean, Brian gave an example when he had a coach that he knew this coach and, okay, I'm going to hire them. And then went, shoot, I shouldn't have hired him. Should have researched a bit more. He looked at the cover. He saw the first flap, said, oh, a lot of people like this first flap, and shut it. And not until he started working that he went through a few more pages and went, this book doesn't have a lot of pages and it's really repetitive. Research.
Right. Okay. I think we can cover some more. I got a couple of more examples too, right after our commercial.
Thank you for joining us on the porch. We share the nuances and lessons we've garnered from throughout our combined 40 years of life experiences. Talk from the porch is always serious, but full of laughter, and we're glad you're here with us. Like, share with a friend, and please subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And remember, join the conversation every Friday at noon Mountain Time. We'll see you on the porch.
Welcome back. That was a quick one.
It was. I was trying to answer John. I have no control of the board today. It's all Brian. It is not me.
Did I miss something?
Well, John just commented too. So John said, yes, first impressions are important. They really are.
You mean that one?
Yes, you're not bringing in comments like I normally do.
Well, that's because I haven't had. I mean, I can go through here. Here's one praising us.
But yes, John says, first impressions are important because that's really what opens the initial door. And that's what we're talking about. You must put your best foot forward. And then when you're comfortable with that other person, then you can learn a little bit more about them. But always best foot forward.
And
my collar's crooked. Okay.
One of the things I'm thinking of is when you were talking a minute ago about the businesses. There are franchises out there that some people start the franchise because they love the restaurant, for instance, because that's usually the typical franchise kind of concept. But they love the restaurant. So they say, okay, I'm going to buy into the restaurant and I'm going to own this franchise. And it's all superficial at the top and it's all beautiful and it's all, smelling the roses and all this other kind of good stuff. Then they get into it. They sign the contract, and the next thing you know, they're committed to a 3-year or a 5-year contract because they didn't do their research on the contract.
Their due diligence.
Due diligence, that's a good word. And they get stuck in a position, and in order, it's like, I don't know if they still do it, but remember the day when you got a cell phone and you had to sign a 4-year contract with your cell phone, and if you got out, you had to pay a penalty? Yeah. There's franchises that are like that. You get out, it's going to cost you dearly, whether you made any money at it or not. And so it locks people into that business, and they hate it for the, I can also probably name off a couple examples within the financial business that this has happened to, people that I actually know. And it's incredible the mistakes that we make just because we thought it was awesome on the top.
Oh, yeah. Well, Nicholas wrote The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Those shows have everyone judging books by covers. The other thing is 90 Day Fiancé.
Well, those are, I didn't put that up. And the reason why I originally didn't put that up when I saw it was because reality shows are not really reality.
Yeah. But a lot of people think that. Okay. A lot of people follow it. Now, the other example I wanted to give was a lot of our followers are parts of MLMs and things of that nature.
Right.
Small businesses that have started from their home or whatever. And you meet this person, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be part of this direct sales company. Oh, it's awesome. You're so successful. I'm in. And you join. And then 6 months later, you still aren't doing anything. You do this company's crap. I don't want to do this because I'm not successful. You lied to me because you're successful and I'm not. Well, there's a thing about work. Just because you're part of a corporation or an MLM or whatever, direct sales that is doing well, you must work you gotta work.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of those they call you put the definition of a turnkey business on it. Well, that's great. Turnkey typically means that they just kind of hand things over to you. Well, the part of it is I think of you got to turn the key.
You got to turn the key,
and start the ignition.
And then you've got to turn the knob. You've got to do something to make it happen. So It's all plug and play, but you must plug and you must play. And that's where the other thing about books by the cover, that's why MLMs are terrible. That's why direct sales are terrible. No, you didn't play the game. When you're in it, you must work to make it work. It's just like any other business. If you sit and kind of wait for people, oh, I know that name, I'm going to buy from you, and you don't talk to them, they don't know anything about you. Remember, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. Just because you've got a name of some bigger company behind you doesn't mean people are going to flock to your doors. They must know you and understand why you do what you do and why you stand behind the product, and then they'll come to you. So you cannot sit on your laurels with the name on your back and say, why isn't anybody coming? No one's buying from me. There's too many other people in town. It's like, no.
You were having a good conversation last night with the interview that you were doing about the business that she's trying to do around the breast cancer and stuff like that, around the business that she's trying to think. And she brought up Make-A-Wish.
Yes.
And her story was perfect for what we're talking about. Make-A-Wish, we all say it now, and we think of the organization that helps. And it's something that had to be ingrained in us over the years, because originally when the comment was made, you thought of Make-A-Wish upon a star kind of thing.
And you wish upon a star.
There you go. There's your music. So now we look at it, we already know what the book is. We already know it, and it's ingrained in us. There's a lot of stuff that's out there like that. There's also stuff, another point I wanted to bring up too. I can say it's really easy to build a web page. Or it's really easy to do something because somebody told me it's really easy. I can market my business on one of these social media sites and I can have hundreds of thousands of followers because it's really easy. Just do this.
Just do this.
Well, and then when you go back to it and you actually go to just do this, the time, the effort, the work, the grueling hours, the learning, we forget about that part sometimes. But we judge that book at the top as, yes, I can get 1 million followers in a week.
Well, just think about, like with me, I'm a speaker. And I go on stage or I go on whatever, and I'm talking and I'm entertaining and I'm, uplifting people, blah, blah, blah. And people, wow, that is so easy. I'm going to do what you do. I've been practicing for a really long time. I mean, it's pretty much my whole life I've been practicing, but I'm always practicing. And you know this, my husband knows this, our producer knows. I am constantly thinking and I'm always analyzing. So, and then I'm always building speeches and building PowerPoints. So it's not as easy as I make it. It looks easy because repetition. I'm very good at, I've got a routine going, just like with this website stuff. Yeah, it's easy once I've done it 15,000 times. Or like with Edison, I've never failed. I've just had, 20,000 mistakes. 20,000 things that I had to adjust. It's all about what you do with the book. Yes, my book cover of speaking on stage sounds, wow, that's a pretty book. I'd love to do that and make, X amount of money by only talking twice. Wow, that sounds great. No idea what the bottom of that iceberg looks like.
Right. And some of it even goes back to if you look at the screen, if you're watching us live now, you can see the Denim and Pearls logo. It's really simple. It's easy. And everybody knows that you can just put that together because it's nothing but a font. But you know how long it took to get to that point to make it look like it belongs there, that it's something good?
And get it to fit, and that it fits in all the different places that it shows.
All the different formats and everything else. It's really easy, but it took hours. It's like right now, if you were to go to our website, which, we've announced before, not quite yet. Okay. I actually have it tore down and I'm rebuilding it. And I've just been trying to do the cover page of what's called above the fold, that first thing you see when you get into the web page. I have been at it for probably 12 hours now? No, probably longer than that.
It's been more than 12 hours.
At least 20, 24 hours. I've been trying to get it so that it looks right, that it's got the right background, so that it says what we want it to say.
Well, it's funny because it looks good on his
side. It was really easy. I just dropped the picture in.
Well, it looks good on his side, and then he'll say, Michelle, look at it on your phone. And I have an iPhone. And I'll look at it, I do. No, one of us is missing. He's like, oh, dang it. Back to the drawing board. Well, think about our logo, our cartoon logo. The artist who drew this, John Mortensen, he drew it. And then we're like, my nose is too big. He drew it again. My jaw's too big. Drew it again. Why am I so dark? Drew it again. Where's my other shoulder? I mean, so he just kept fixing it and fixing it. So although that is a beautiful art piece, it's fun, it captures us, all of this.
Right.
That was not one drawing. That was many drawings. And thank you, John
any
Mortensen.
artist can tell you that. Any artist, anybody who creates anything, you don't write, not typically, there are songs out there that have been written the first time, but in general, you go through and you move this key or that note or this note. Artists, they move this line or that line, they make this heavier, they make this lighter, whatever. I mean, everything has to be built, but when it gets to the public, everybody goes, well, that was easy.
That was easy. That was such an easy song. L is for the way you look at. The guy was doing L. L is for la la. What's an L word? Hey, John, what's an L word? I don't know. Lollipop. I mean, think about what went through such an easy song, Love. It takes a lot.
Well, we did peanut butter jelly time. That was a jingle. How long did it take them to come up with that?
They're probably doing steak and onions. No, that doesn't work.
Oh.
Liver and onions, no. More people like peanut butter and jelly. Oh, I like peanut butter and jelly. Should we do grape jelly or strawberry jelly? I mean, you really don't know when the simplest things, and that's what's the beauty of when things hit perfection, when things are just right, is it looks simple.
Right. And then it changes. That's the fun part is once you've got it, then it changes. Mm-hmm. It always changes. I remember when, Linda and I started our business before with networking stuff, and we were doing flyers. One of my favorite fonts of all time is Comic Sans Serif. It's like the worst, the one thing that you just don't do in marketing. But I was using it, and I go back and I look on my computer every once in a while. I go, oh, why did I do that? So we always are making changes because of what we're learning and what we're doing, because that first impression, like we say, don't judge a book, and it's that first impression right straight off the top.
And I do trainings, and I've done trainings on how to look good on camera, on Zoom calls and things. Right now, if I was in a training session, I would be ripping up Brian because of his background. But I know his circumstances. It's not his environment. He's in his mom's house, and there's not much he can do unless he sits in the kitchen.
This isn't grandma's couch. This is the curtains.
This is a curtain. So he's either in a bathroom, a bedroom, or a kitchen. Okay, right. In front of the open window is the only place he's got. So he's got a curtain. So I understand his circumstances. So judging a book by its cover, I normally would do, Brian, what are you doing in front of that? Well, actually, that's what I said. Brian, what are you doing in front of that curtain? And then he'd say, oh, this is the only place. And he showed me all the places in the house. And I'm like,
I can even do that.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
It's the cabinet.
Yeah. Stay with the curtain. It's the best choice. So once I opened the book and asked the question, I realized he had no other choice.
Right.
So be sure to open the book. So we're at 44 minutes. Do we have another commercial?
Well, we can either do a commercial or won't we wrap it up as what not to do? Can we do that?
You start.
Judge but not judge? I think if we sum up everything that we've got here in the podcast that we've talked about, it's because we have to judge. That's what keeps us on the straight and narrow.
Yeah,
that's who we are. That's what we are. Okay, whether it's judging a person, and we've gotten this thing now where I won't go into it. But anyway, we can judge a person by what they look like or what they appear or what we believe that they are. We can judge this kind of stuff, but always give them no matter whether it's a person or a business, always give them a chance. See what's beyond the cover. Open the book up. And I think that's really what I'm talking metaphors now, but that's what we've talked about this entire show is, yes, you may judge, but you also have to give a chance. It's like one of the things that we didn't talk about is I love everybody until they don't love me.
Let's see, and I love everyone until they prove me wrong.
Exactly. Same thing. Okay. You put your distrust on the line. Guess what? I'm not going to trust you anymore, but I'm going to, at least at the first part of it, give you the opportunity to prove yourself or live up to the fact that I like you. But there are people who will come around and they totally prove you wrong in that judgment. So I think we always have to look beyond, find out what the truth is, find out where our strengths are, find out where the business strengths are, and not judge those businesses if we're starting a new one, not judge those businesses just by what looks pretty, but judge by what's underneath too. So we always got to be looking everywhere all the time.
And then my 2 cents into that is I believe that I love and trust everyone until they prove me wrong. But when I love and trust other people, I have a guard up. Understand that you're human and your entire psyche is built to protect you from harm. So it's okay to have a guard up. What the most important thing in that is to realize when your guard is so high up that you're not letting people in your world that really need to be in your world. And you're my lesson. I'm very open, except for that one little piece. And instead of hiding from that piece, and for those of you who weren't on the show earlier, I was afraid of Brian. I did not like him. I had a book cover put on top of him. I was never going to open that horror story. And when I realized that I had to open that book in order to get over that fear of whatever that cover was, I realized that I had put this one particular very nice man in a book cover that he didn't belong in. So be sure to keep your options open. Remember that you have baggage in your past. You have pain from your past that you make judgment calls on. Before you judge that book by the cover completely, one, realize the fear that you have of that book cover is something from your past. Evaluate it. I wrote a whole book on it. It's Not Luck, Overcoming You, about how to get over those inner critics, okay? What's forcing your mindset to choose or not choose things for your future. I addressed one of my biggest inner critic fears by opening the book of my friend Brian. He would have never been my friend. He would have been an acquaintance. But because I knew that I was feeling angst about it, I purposely opened that cover to make sure that I was really right or really wrong. And the next thing I knew, I opened the cover and I was really wrong. And I was so happy to know I was wrong. So before you make solid judgment calls and shut a book and put it away into a basement and lock it in a box, address it, then look at it.
I have one more thing. Yes, I want the final word. No, just kidding. I do have one more thing, and this is what I taught my kids, and you and I actually had this conversation the other day. It's part of judgment. Music. I appreciate all music.
Oh, yeah,
That doesn't mean I like it all, but I appreciate it, and I think the same goes with people and everything else that we talk about today. You've got to appreciate it. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to turn it on in your car. You can change the station, but you have to appreciate that somebody did have a talent, put that together, and created something.
And someone enjoys it. Just because you don't.
Somebody does.
Yeah. Just because you don't doesn't mean it's wrong. And that's a whole nother subject. Ooh, that's another subject for next week, maybe. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's another version of opening, not by judging a book by the cover, but just because you don't like it. We'll think about that.
All
so,
right.
My name is Michelle Moras. Who are you?
Brian Swanson.
We are Business Casual with
Pearls of Wisdom.
From the Porch.
I totally forgot my shades today.
Peace. Thank you so much for joining us on Denim and Pearls today. We appreciate you so much, and we hope to see you next week, Friday at noon Mountain Standard Time. Please share this with your friends because I think we had some good nuggets today. Share it. And if you have Clubhouse, see us on Clubhouse. It's Denim and Pearls Live. We'll be there.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the porch. We share the nuances and lessons we've garnered from throughout our combined 40 years of life experiences. Talk from the porch is always serious, but full of laughter, and we're glad you're here with us. Like, share with a friend, and please subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And remember, join the conversation every Friday at noon Mountain Time. We'll see you on the porch.